Your favorite light-wielding, wing-popping Crusader of Justice is kicking ass and taking aim, so you know it's about that time to pick your Retribution Paladin and start telling Flame he cannot play Ret for shit.
Hell yeah, Ret Paladin. Press some buttons, look at the wings, Ret Paladin, baby.
Or you know, just watch the guide until the end so you can learn about talents, gear, corruption, rotation, essences, and all you need to dominate as Ret Paladin. Going into the talents, just note that this is a beginner guide catered to you if you haven't played Red in a long time or if you were simply just thinking of picking the spec up for the very first time. And although you will perform great after watching this, for more in-depth info, please remember to visit the Hammer of Wrath Discord. Alright, talents. For single target and general high priority targets, Execution Sentence will be your pick, as apart from adding another button to your kit, this will deliver a massive hit while also buffing with 20% the holy damage that the target takes for 12 seconds. For dungeons, Zeal will take the cake, as this will help a lot with your downtime due to its mechanic. Basically, Judgment will make your next 3 auto attacks to swing 30% faster and dish out additional holy damage. Second row, you want Hammer of Wrath for both dungeons and raids. This is a long time fan favorite, and I know all you old school Red Paladins love this talent, and here is my secret wish. With Shadowlands and all that unpruning, maybe they will make this baseline again and rip it out of the talent tree, you know, like it used to be. Now, this will add yet another button to your rotation, which will be available once the target is at 20% HP or below, or during your Avenging Wrath. It provides decent damage, but more importantly, it is yet another source of holy power generation, so yay! The CC talent row can provide you value on any option depending on what your group needs. The default option is Fist of Justice, as this will transform your Hammer of Justice into a 30 to 40 second stun by just using your main damage ability, Templar's Verdict. But hey, if your team is already stun heavy, Blinding Light is a great pick, especially for dungeons, as you can use it for an AoE disorient, interrupting multiple casts, or maybe you need to incapacitate a mob for a minute. Then Repentance can be really great, but do take note that both Blinding Light and Repentance will break on AoE damage. Just watch out when playing with Unholy Decays and Demon Hunters. On the fourth row, the most rounded up option still is Wake of Ashes. Here you can always sim, as Consecration tends to pull away when it comes to DPS, but the utility of Wake is just too good for both AoE and single target, as on top of a good chunk of fire damage, it also slows for 50% and fills you up with 5 holy powers. How can you go wrong with this? Oh, and it also stuns demons and undeads, just saying. For the fifth row, you will again pick the talent depending on the situation. In ny'alotha, you can really get value from Cavalier, providing you with 2 charges of Divine Steed, something really needed as the encounters are placed in large spaces and there is a lot of moving to be done. On the other hand, in dungeons, especially in skittish weeks, Eye for an Eye will be super useful, as it will reduce physical damage by 35% while also damaging your attackers. If none of these apply, then Unbreakable Spirit will be the default option, as you will have your bubble reduced to 3.5 minute cooldown, your Shield of Righteous to 1.4 minute cooldown, and Lay on Hands to a 7 minute one. Sixth row brings you 2 main options for which a lot of the groups will consider having you as Red in their comp. In raids, Selfless Healer, as this will make your Flash of Light instant cast, heal 40% more, but only after you use your Holy Power Spenders 4 times in a row. Really useful to help out with the heals in sticky phases. Now for dungeons, Word of Glory is a monster of an AoE heal. No bullshit, I legitimately healed 3 players for 100k plus each in on multiple occasions, and it is a DPS loss if you're using 3 holy powers on it, but man, stop being selfish and be a true versatile spec. And for the last row, the most consistent talent out of the 3 is Inquisition. Truth be told, you have to monitor it and refresh it, but it's a good trade-off for constant 7% increase to your damage and haste. It's the go-to pick for single target anyways, while Divine Purpose and Crusade can sometimes work better for Mythic Plus, but this really has to be simmed by yourself to know for sure. If not sure or just starting out, go with Inquisition and you won't regret it. I do want to point out that in 8.3, as you get higher and higher in item level, Crusade will start simming as the best talent on the last row once again, so be on the lookout for it once you start to go above 460 or 465 item level, and always sim this row for the best results. Alright, it's stats time! As stated in my previous Ret Paladin guide, there are no real stat priorities for Ret Paladin for the entirety of this expansion, so the best way to find out what stat you should be focusing on is simming yourself. Now, the general consensus is that haste and critical strike are sort of the best to look for. On this topic, I provided a link in the description from Skeletor's website for you to look at what benefits you have depending on the amount of haste you are rocking. Critical strike, on the other hand, can be far more important for you in raids when rocking the expurgation trait, which we will get to in a second. Your consumables should be used in conjunction with your sim stats, but for a general idea, get the Accord of Critical Strike for your rings while socketing some nice deadly lava lazulis for your sockets. Be aware that all these can be replaced with their haste counterparts if crit is already covered or if you are lacking expurgation traits. Your weapons should follow the same route with a deadly navigation enchant for some even more crit procs or quick navigation for haste, again depending on what your character is in need for. Your flask will always be Greater Flask of the Undertow, with potions varying between Unbridled Fury for single target and Empowered Proximity for AoE, or if you want an all-in-one potion good for both single and multi-target, then get yourself some Superior Battle Potion of Strength. If possible, take Feast for your main food option, with McDowell's Big Mac being a great alternative if you don't have the dough but want some crit in your life, or Baked Pork Potato for the same reasons, just replacing crit with haste. Now that we got stats and consumables out the way, let's talk about the Azerite traits you need. For single target and mainly raids, you should go with Expurgation stacked 3 times. This will enable your Blade of Justice crits to place a 6-second dot on the target, ticking for very good damage. A very potent trait, especially when taking into account the amount of movement or downtime we raids tend to get in massive raids such as ny'alotha. Another mandatory one is Slice Decree, as this will add more damage to your holy power spenders, but more importantly, it will increase the duration of your wings to 25 seconds. Also, Avenger Might is yet again a great one to have, because during your wings this will provide you a big ass mastery increase, further adding to the iconic burst of Ret Paladin. For Mythic Plus, things will change a bit. Having the previously mentioned Light's Decree becomes the most important, having it stacked 3 times. The duration of wings will not stack, but the damage will, providing you with insane AoE damage during your wings. Avengers Might also becomes a big priority in dungeons, with 2 of them being absolutely required. The Mastery will stack, increasing even more your AoE. Last one to look for in dungeons is 1 Empyrean Power. This has a chance to trigger you a free Divine Storm with an added damage increase on top of it. Lovely! If for some reason you cannot get some of these traits, Relentless Inquisitor is also a good pick, providing you stacks of haste with every holy power you spend, or the new trait Heart of Darkness, which will be really good once you get above 25 corruption and have at least 2 of them, buffing your secondary stats, which you'll definitely appreciate. And now, essences! For both Mythic Plus and raiding, the best option for your red is Vision of Perfection, as this will lower the cooldown for wings to 1.7 minutes and has the almighty chance of proccing them when you least expect it. Granted, with my luck, it became quite a part of my lifestyle to have my Vision of Perfection proc after killing the last mob. And don't get me into the luck I get for dropping gear, because my 10 risk collection will counter any argument. But enough about Ian Hazakostas. In case you don't have rank 3 vision, then Condensed Life Force is your best pick for raiding and focusing Iris when doing dungeons. But if you do have vision at rank 3, forget about all those. For minor essences, Bread of the Dying is looking very strong even at rank 1, because on top of its corruption resistance, it's free damage and it is basically an improved Crucible of Flame. Whirlwind Resonance is also a strong minor, but only if you know some other folks in your group are rocking it. Conflict and Strife is another option for your third miner slot, and if you cannot be bothered to PvP, then use Focusing Iris there for that sweet haste. But what about trinkets? Well, my friend, I'm glad you asked, since if you are still holding that Ashvane Razor Coral, then keep it, as it is your main trinket for both Rating and Mythic Plus. Even if it's 430 eye level, keep using it as it provides the best possible crit out there. Pairing this up with Veer Charge Titan Shard from Raden makes it the perfect match for all your single target needs. And why wouldn't it? You get massive haste with this and massive crit from Razor Coral. Go figure. For dungeons, as I said, keep your Razor Coral and be sure to use it always on the biggest mob while also looking for Torment in a Jar from Xanesh. This one can provide great AoE numbers as initially it will launch a small circular damage splash while stacking you Unleashed Agony. This will buff the initial damage by 100%, and once it reaches 12 stacks, it will explode in your enemies' faces. Really good. I'm going to explain once again the usage of Razor Coral in dungeons. So, you should be putting it on a high health mob. Letting the mob die automatically triggers your stacks when reapplying it to another high health mob. Sometimes you're aiming to build crit stacks in one pack to use it on the next. By letting the coral stacks activate when a mob dies, you can immediately put it onto a new mob without waiting for the 20-second cooldown. This method is very effective, but does take more focus to keep on top of. Alright, let's talk about your weapon choices. So far, we're looking for a great two-hander for your red. You really need to take into account the corruption it will provide, and of course, this when talking about weapons that drop from the raid. Of course, Gereku will be a very good option if you are not doing that much raiding, but really, some of the most used two-handers currently by high-end reds are Shkrulvaz from Maut or Devastation Hour from Ny'alotha. Shkrulvaz gives you Obsidian Skin, which will deal damage based on the amount of armor you are rocking, which in theory, it does sound more like a tank weapon, but since you are a plate wearer and striving for higher and higher gear, this will be a very decent option. Devastation Hour, on the other hand, will come with Twilight Devastation, which is a great all-around trait to have on the weapon, but it can really pull off in AoE. That being said, I should say that this is the most hard-hitting ability on my Demon Hunter in single target out of all my kit, so take that into account also. And since we touch on corruption effects, let's take a look at what are the best for red. For single target, Infinite Stars is still the #1 corruption to go for, even with all its nerfs. But in case you're unlucky with the drops, then Twisted Appendix is a very close contender, as this will have a chance to proc a nice little tentacle to mind flay your current target for lots of shadow damage. This is reminiscent of the old Gurtalak weapon from Cataclysm, which I loved at the time, by the way. Void Ritual is also a good pick, provided it gets much stronger when other players in your group have it. It will increase all your secondary stats, and since reds don't really look at a straight line when it comes to those, having all of them increase is really good, right? AoE will net you Twilight Devastation as the best performing one, hands down. As mentioned earlier, you get this one as a guaranteed drop from the Devastation Hour from Ny'alotha. If you get this, just remember to always face the mobs correctly, because the proc has a weird zigzaggy way when pathing, and if you're not positioned correctly, it may not hit as many mobs as you want. Ineffable Truth is yet another strong pick for AoE, as it will provide you a chance to reduce all your abilities' cooldowns by 50% for 10 seconds. You can imagine how big of an impact this has for Divine Storm and Wake of Ashes spamming, not to mention your Avenging Rat. Do take note that the corruptions are not yet set in stone, as it's always much better for you to sim yourself. Blizzard is still tuning the fuck out of them, so always be on the lookout for updates on the Fellhammer Discord, which is linked in the description. For single target opener, we shall make use of the Talon build containing Execution Sentence, Hammer of Wrath, Wake of Ashes, and Inquisition. Please note that openers for reds vary from build to build, and you should look at Skeletor's website for all of those. It's in the description. Right, so pre-pot 4 to 5 seconds before the pull. Use Coral first to start building up the stacks. Blade of Justice, and then Judgment for 3 holy powers. Follow that up with 2 Crusader strikes back to back to have 5 holy powers. Get your Inquisition going after this. Pop Avenging Wrath, then Hammer of Wrath, then Blade of Justice, follow it up with Execution Sentence, then Judgment, and finally Templar's Verdict. Then Wake of Ashes, another Templar's Verdict, and after this, you hit your abilities based on the following priority. Inquisition, always at the top. Avenging Wrath, second. Execution Sentence, third. Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm. Wake of Ashes. Blade of Justice. Judgment. Hammer of Wrath, and lastly, Crusader Strike. For AoE fights, you can use the same opener and priority, but just replace Templar's Verdict with Divine Storm. This only when you play Zeal from the talents. If it's tyrannical, you can retain your Execution Sentence using it on the highest health mob, but only drop your Divine Storm on packs of 3 or more targets. Ret Paladin is a beauty of a spec, and trust me, there is a lot more to understand when it comes to it, especially when talking about openers, rotations, and talent builds. So, apart from always advising you to sim every goddamn thing, be sure to go to Skeletor's website for an absolute and complete in-depth guide for Retribution. He's a beast of a Ret Paladin and has been there for all of our Ret Paladin guides, including this one. You can find him on the Fellhammer Discord alongside many other great paladins that would be more than happy to help you out. And I want to thank you, dear Patreon, you know who you are, for all of your support on making these videos possible, especially now during these hard times on YouTube. You are the real star of Marcelian&Online and the reason why Flame is now finally growing some facial hair. Thanks for watching the video, and now go play some Ret!